Welcome. This orthodontic world of ours has plenty of podcasts, and they're all about tech and trends. But what about the human side? The Dear Younger Self podcast isn't just your typical podcast, it's a space where we really want to explore personal stories and advice that, at the end of the day, has shaped some of our most inspiring professionals in the field. We want to dive into the life lessons that help them overcome some of their challenges, how they found balance and became the leaders that they are today. It's about the hard-earned wisdom that we wish we could all go back and share with our younger selves, inspiring the next generation to focus on what truly matters in their careers and their lives. So let's stay tuned for stories that resonate, lessons that inspire, and advice that lasts a lifetime. Let's get started.
Well, hello, Lorraine. How are you today?
I am fabulous, Dr. Stevens. How are you?
Good. It's always nice to see you.
It's
I love your
fabulous.
smile. You know, that's what we do. We make smiles, and you've got a beautiful one.
Well, I'm one of those happy people. I can't help
Yeah,
but smile. But thank you again for making the time to do this. I know you're like
sure.
super busy. I know that we've explained the concept to you, dear younger self, and really what I want you to do is it's a little bit of a challenge for some people is you're going to challenge yourself to think if I was on the starting line, once again, opening up my practice and going through my orthodontic career, what words of wisdom would I whisper in my ear?
Right.
And some people find that quite difficult, and they had to take weeks to think about it. But you came back with some pretty quick reply on that, short and
Yeah.
sweet. You came back with goals, learn, live, love, reevaluate. And
Yes.
and I love that that just popped into your head. So where would you like to start?
Well, I might as well start at the first one to set goals. That was really
Absolutely.
important with me. So, one of the things that I realized as I've gone through my life, anytime I set a goal, I usually achieved whatever it was or something like that. And there have been periods of time where I set a goal and knew that I was heading for it. And then there were periods of time where I kind of lost track of that.
Mm,
And so I know that one of the first things I wanted to do was I thought I wanted to be an orthodontist. Um, but was convinced of it in dental school because I didn't like dentistry at all. So I set the goal to really try to be an orthodontist. And I had a tough time my first semester in dental school. I didn't really do very well. And so my community in Nebraska, where I did my dental degree, some of those faculty members weren't too sure I'd get it accepted into orthodontics, even though I wanted to do that was kind of tough. But
mhm.
I kept pursuing that, set that goal, and actually ended up getting accepted to a really great program in North Carolina. And the great thing about that was it taught me that the reason that I got accepted was because Dr. Profit thought I looked interesting because I struggled so much my first year in dental school, and I turned my life around, my career around by doing better as I went through dental school. So he
Mhm.
thought, I'm going to see what this guy is like to interview. So if you feel like you're failing after you've set a goal, you
Mm,
still need to keep going with that goal.
mm.
And so then I set some other goals in life. And one of the things that I knew I set the goal of was I back in the 1980s, there was a guy sitting on the top of a Mercedes, and he said, I made my $1 million in real estate. So I thought, well, I'm going to do some real estate stuff. So I I bought some apartments. I met a gal at a Republican meeting, and she was a real estate agent, so she got me set up in a couple different duplexes. That did not work out like I wanted to, so I dropped that goal. But then I had an opportunity to build a new office
Mhm.
for I had a good friend that was an accountant, and my brother was looking for a new office, so he had a bigger company. So I thought, I'd like to do something and build an office building. And then I set a goal. I'd like to borrow $1 million by the time I'm 35, so that someday I'd be a millionaire after that's all paid off. So
Yeah.
that
Did
that's
that
just
happen?
that yes, I was able to borrow $1 million by the time I was 35, and it has paid off as I look through. It did pay off. Um, but the one other thing that I had at the bottom of my list, I realized is to reevaluate periodically. And I think that is something people tell you to do. You go to seminars and hear speakers, and they will tell you to set a date on them and make sure you reevaluate. And I didn't do that. And I wish I would have, because it would have been a little bit more effective on many areas of my life.
Mm.
And I think that's one recommendation I'd make to somebody that's younger is to set your goals, set some dates, and then reevaluate them. And I
Yeah.
think it would be great to have somebody even reevaluate them with you.
That's really interesting and good advice, by the way. I think many times, being on, the closer side to 60, let's say, is there, if we don't have a vision and we don't know sort of where our goals are, then we sort of just muddle around and hope that something sort of rises to the top of interest that works, right?
Right,
And
right,
and so I think it's amazing that, even never mind the goal to be an orthodontist, right? Obviously a lot of the
right,
orthodontists watching that got that sort of vision that they wanted that. But the idea of setting other goals in life and knowing that's the path that I gotta go. Now, what do I need to do? Right? Just
right,
similar to like you're in school, you're listening for feedback. It's like, what do I need to do to sort of build to get to the goal? But what you're also saying, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is it's okay to step back and say, is this still what I want? Is this still the goal? Is
right,
that what
right.
you're trying to tell me?
Yes, yes. One of the things that in my professional practice, I always thought it'd be fun to do is have some partners and work in a larger group setting, which is what a couple of my friends had done, and it worked out great for them in
Mm,
North Carolina. But when I came to Nebraska, that really wasn't. I came back to Nebraska to practice, and the orthodont community at that time was not very friendly with the other orthodontists. So
mm,
to create something among our group here was difficult.
mm.
And then I pursued it a couple times to have a partner join in my practice, and then it just didn't work out. We discussed it. I even signed a contract with a young man one time, and then he went somewhere else. So that didn't ever work out for me.
Mm.
So I guess I did reevaluate that at the time, that that goal of having a larger practice wasn't going to work for several doctor practice.
Yeah.
I'm happy with the way that worked out. I probably am too independent for that, but it was a good experience. But that's a goal that didn't I did not reach that goal of having a larger,
Mm.
large group practice.
And
I
I
think
think we
is rare.
forget that you have seen, okay, I'm making you sound like you're ancient, which of course you're not, but we have seen such a rise in technology over the years,
Yes,
and mindset as well, in the sense that, I've been in the industry for 32 years, and I've talked before about how back in the day, the corporate side of orthodontics sort of didn't speak to each other. We didn't know each other. We didn't support each other.
right.
And I'm sort of hearing this from you, right? It's like the
Yes,
orthodontic side was somewhat like that. And I think with mindset change and technology change, social media as an example,
yes,
is that
yes.
we're able to open up our worlds, first of all, even on your side of the industry, to talk to other orthodontists,
Right,
right?
right,
Which is
right.
huge. We forget that we've sort of traveled that, haven't we?
Well, it's so much easier now to stay connected with your classmates, your friends.
Mm,
Usually, orthodontist down the street's not going to tell you what they're doing and be really friendly with you, but sometimes they are. There's a couple
mm,
guys here in Omaha that are good friends, but we don't hang out that much. But because of social media and
yeah,
it's easy to connect with them. I think that's an
yeah.
opportunity. I know for me, one of the things that I wrote down was to learn. That was really important for me, is to
Mm,
make sure I went to an AAO and the North Carolina alumni. They have a really great meeting every fall. So
mm,
that was really good for me to go to and stay connected with my professional community. And had I not done that, I don't think I would have progressed as far. I don't think I would have stayed up with on all the new technologies coming
yeah,
out as
yeah.
I have. So I think that's really critically important.
Mm. Do you go to a lot of those meetings, or have you found yourself just liking certain ones? A lot of meetings have come out of the woodwork that are essentially new. So, as an
Yes.
example, Mother of Pearls or entrepreneurs that are sort of like a little bit different, sort of a morph of the original sort of straightforward meetings.
Right,
What
right.
is, do you find those meetings helpful for you?
Yes, I think they're really exciting and exhilarating in some ways. I think one thing that happened about, um, I guess it's probably almost 20 years ago now, maybe 18, no, probably 15 years ago. I should have that date, but one of the things in my life, I created the WildSmiles braces,
Hmm.
and we go to several meetings with that, and we were found that there weren't very many company-centric meetings. A lot of meetings are oriented toward the speaker. You might have an exhibit, but there wasn't much interaction with the doctors when they came to the show. So myself and Davin Bickford from WildSmiles, we came up with this concept of having a meeting that was different. And
Yeah.
so it was called Ortho Voice. And really, yeah, I think it spawned all these other kinds of courses in a way. One
Yeah.
that I'm not a personality driven guy. It's not, I don't really, so it was kind of more of a user
Mhm.
and a vendor meeting. And I really encourage vendors to bring speakers, and then I found speakers to talk at the meeting, but I didn't really want it to be about me or about any one particular speaker, one
Right.
particular concept. I wanted to keep it moving around. But we did that for 10 years, and it was really a wonderful way
Mm.
for me to stay connected with new things going on. And then, but also just going to the AAO, and if you want to go to a surgery meeting or you want to go to a different kind of meeting, you should always take that chance. And I did some practice management stuff early on. There was a meeting called Quest where it lasted over a year period, and you went 4 times in that year, and they heavily evaluated your practice and told you
Mm.
things to do. I grew up, my dad was 50 when I was born. My mom was 40. I had an older brother, but uh,
You were
at
the baby of the family, huh?
yeah, so we weren't a family that really hugged or did anything like that. We weren't that emotional. So I went to this meeting, and they said, well, you need to make sure you're hugging somebody every day, and you need to hug your staff, and you need to hug your family and do all this stuff. So I came home from that meeting and hugged my parents and my brother, and they're like, what's happening? And so it really, that changed me from being I'm an extroverted guy, but I was more shy and reticent to share those kinds of emotions. So,
Yeah.
had I not taken that course, I wouldn't be the man I am today. So I think you should evaluate the courses you want to take and make sure you get the things you need. I know
Mm.
one of the things I put on my list was to love, and I find that sometimes orthodontists don't know how to love their patients or their team.
Mm.
And if you don't figure that out, you're going to have a miserable time because
Yeah.
your whole practice is about taking care of people.
Yeah.
And it's a servant oriented thing. I think probably Jesus is the biggest servant in the world that's recognized as a servant, but that sort of service is important, and you have to love your staff, you have to love your patients. And I've told orthodontists, younger orthodontists, that just maybe don't like people that much. I tell them to make sure you hire some people on your team that are
Mm.
lovers, because they have to be able to engage with that person when they're having a problem when they're coming
Mhm.
in. And
But
I don't
that's a
always know how to love people, but
but that's a strong part of understanding your own strengths and weaknesses, right?
yes,
Understanding that I have a background that has made me emotionally, what would the
just
word be?
I don't know.
Exactly, right?
Awkward.
But if we understand that to be, let's call it a weakness, and to be able to hire someone that has that strength that can support you, right? Like you don't need necessarily hire people that are good at what you do. You need to hire people that are good at what you're not good at.
Right, right,
And so you have this entire support system. But we have to remember, the time that we spend at work, and they talk about work-life balance, is at the end of the day, we're at work 98% of the time. We really should
right.
be happy and love what we're doing. And giving love is fun, and it
Yes,
makes your
yes.
world a richer place, right?
It is, it is. And you have to learn how to love a little bit. So and that's also that makes you grow, makes you be a better person. So
Yeah.
I
And
think that's
at the end of the day, when you have that patient that comes through your practice, that is perhaps the one that makes life difficult that day, is being able to step back and practice empathy skills of like, where is that patient coming from? So you have at least an understanding of why they are upset about something, and then taking it as not a criticism, but as how can I manage that particular type of patient moving forward in a better
right,
way? So again, coming back to your learning and reevaluating, right?
right, right.
Yeah, I mean they really they all it all seems so simple now, doesn't it? When you're looking back on it.
Yes, it does. Won't say there's regrets, but there's things like, oh, I would maybe do that differently or do things. I think it's important to at least look at your life and wonder about it. I do. One other thing is I think is really important, which kind of goes with the learning. It's is if you find a mentor,
Mm,
would be a really awesome thing. I know for me, I eased into that mentorship. I was Dr. Prophet was probably a huge mentor for me. He did have confidence in me when I wasn't really sure
mhm,
that I was going to get into orthodontics. So, and then as I watched him really love to teach and love to help
mm,
his former students out. He really became a mentor for me. And he was also showed me that if you stay on your task to do what you want to do, you can get it done.
mm.
And he was an awkward guy, awkward personality, but the world loved him. The orthodontic world loved him because he was just so good.
So those are incredible words of wisdom. That do you think if you were to go back in time and whisper those words of wisdom in your ear, would it have made it an easier journey, or would you perhaps have, because those are all mindsets, right?
Yes, yes.
What do you think might just dream for a moment? I know it's crazy, but what do you think if you had have had the mindset, or maybe you feel like you really haven't changed your mindset, but if you were to go back, would there be a different journey or
The other
today?
thing I mentioned was to live. And I think that that's an area that would have made the journey a little different.
Hmm.
And what I say yes to a lot of things,
Hmm.
but I did not always set a goal to say yes to the right things. And I think that it's important for you to live your life and to make sure you're saying yes to the right decisions. So I think those things would have changed my life in that I would have enjoyed the experience more, whatever it was that I actually said yes to a few things I said no to.
But I think those are great parting words. I would have enjoyed the experience more. And pretty much what you're saying is maybe stop and enjoy the experience, that sort of trials and tribulations along the way of your career and building perhaps your own practice. It's the journey, right?
Yes, yes.
Enjoy the journey.
And I think the thing about saying yes is you can plan for some event to be really wonderful.
Yeah.
Like we planned for and that ortho voice meeting. I had a birthday, invited a lot of people, family and friends and orthodontic colleagues to a birthday party, and it was lovely. But at the last minute before I left my office at home, who was there too, they brought a bunch of mustaches to put on. So that was something that wasn't planned, and
Yeah.
it came up, but it really exhilarated the fun in the party and
Right.
party. So I think things you planned don't always work out, and just be aware of those things that come along that are the real events in your life that show up. I'm sure
Mm.
you can think of those, that the things you
Love
remember.
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't really want it to go that way, but this is what happened. Those are really fabulous things. It just you have to rejoice in those, because that's where life is.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much. We're keeping it short and sweet today because
Yeah, well, thank you.
I really appreciate your time. I think there were incredible words of wisdom. And
Thanks.
thank
You're
you again.
sweet.
So appreciate
Okay. Yeah, have a great day.